Good morning and welcome back to another video here from on top of the off-grid garage in sunny Australia. As you have seen in the last video, we have now fully installed the system here on all roofs. So we've got the big shed over there, we've got the east roof and the west roof and the carport installed now. All in total 14.2 kilowatt peak. And I've got the system running for a couple of days now. More about this soon. We have 10 to 7 in the morning. We've got some shading here on all these panels. And we are producing already 1.35 kilowatts of incoming power. I have tried to deplete the battery a bit overnight with keeping the pool pump running on a higher speed. But yeah, 70% state of charge was the lowest I could get, so to speak. Yeah, there is some moisture here on the panels, some leaves, some dirt, dust. And as you have seen this morning when I woke up at 10 to 6 or something, we already had 350 watts of production. So here you can see the east roof as well, shading from the trees. And here on the west roof as well. It's early in the morning, of course, and so the sun will come up over these trees here, and then we've got so it is now 7:26 and we have over 2 kilowatt of production already now on the roof here. Down here we can see, yeah, here we can see the big shed over there makes 500 watts. The carport with on the tilt system 420, the east roof 585, and the west roof 517 makes 2 kilowatts already. This was always the goal, to reach 1 kilowatt of production even in shading and clouding conditions. Now it's not super cloudy, it's a bit cloudy today, but shading, yeah, definitely shading everywhere. And we are still making 2 kilowatts. So who needs to cut down trees, right? You just over panel your system. Yeah, 7:26. So it is now 8:20 and we are charging with over 4 kilowatt already. Interesting here is, why is this so dark? And interesting here is that the carport tilt system actually produces most of the power now. Even it is tilted away from the sun, which is in a fairly flat angle still. But you can see 1.3 kilowatt from this system here on the carport, while all the other systems are producing less. And this is not even the biggest system here. I found this quite interesting to see every morning now. But the solar charge controllers are still figuring out the maximum power point. You can see the output power is going up and down all the time. And we have still got some shading on these panels over there and on the east roof and over there. There's shading from the trees, but I mean, who cares, right? Who cares? So I also plugged in the vehicle already to charge it up. But we are still charging the battery and the sun will just come, give it another half an hour, and we will have lots of power here. So we now have all these solar panels and roofs connected to our system since Monday afternoon, late afternoon, when they finished all the work on the roof. Yeah, I'm not sure if I have shown you this one here. This is how they solved the issue now with the cabling up there. So they used my duct situation there with the glands to get the cables in and the conduit. And this one here is the solar feed from the east roof going into the combiner box, and then connects back to the breakers and then back to the bus bar, cables out to the isolators here. So yeah, they left actually the hole free, so we can use this for future upgrades because there will be more cables going into our mice tunnel. Yeah, so this is all now connected since Monday morning, and because it was late afternoon there was not too much power coming on, but it was very exciting to see that everything is working, all the solar charge controllers are working, and I was eager to wait for the next day because the battery was down like to, so you can see the battery was fairly empty on Tuesday morning, about 16%. Well, and then the sun came out and kicked in and charged the battery, right? It charged it. You can see here the battery hit 100% at 2 o'clock. This was only a couple of hours until the battery was fully charged. And we managed to produce 50 kilowatt hours just on Tuesday with an empty battery. And a bit of load, pool pump was running. So unfortunately, I was not at home Tuesday. I was at work and I could only monitor the situation here in the off-grid garage through the Victron VRM. And I could see all these crazy numbers for the big shed, for the carport, the new east roof and west roof. Yeah, all of the 4 controllers were unrestricted, unlimited power. Whatever came from the solar went into the battery. So this is 4 times 70 amps. Yep, and if you do the quick maths, this turns out like 280 amps, right? Well, I never expected that much power coming in actually. So maxing out the solar charge controllers was not really a consideration for me. I knew the east and west roof with 4 kilowatt, they may max this out under certain circumstances. When we had the sun peeking out of the clouds and you get this massive reflection as well, then the panels overproduce. The same as right now, I could see 4.5, 5 kilowatt early in the morning at about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I said, well, this is mind-blowing. This is more power than I've ever generated before in the best conditions. Yeah, and then I could see 6, 8, 10, 12 kilowatt coming from the solar and the amperage into the battery because there was almost no load connected. At this point of time, there was only the pool pump connected and a bit of load here in the garage. So most of the energy went into the battery straight away. And because the battery was so low state of charge, it sucked it all in. It's a big sucker. Yeah, and then at around, what time was that? Oh, that was shortly after noon, 12:17. I took this screenshot here because I didn't look at the VRM all the time, only every 1.5 minutes maybe, but I could capture this screenshot here. So the overall PV production is 15 kilowatts. 15 kilowatts. Remember, this altogether is only 14.2 kilowatt peak system. And this was at 80% state of charge. And we are pushing 250 amps into the battery. 250 amps charge current. And there were some other situations because there was a bit of cloudy weather as well involved with clouds coming and going. And I've also seen 15.5 and 15.8 kilowatts, which gave us over 265 amps into the battery. And if you remember, the main breaker and switch is only 250 amps, right? It sits on 1.0, so it has actually the 250 amps. But all these ones, the 100 amp breakers for the battery banks, they are sitting on 80% only. There you can see it. See, they're all turned down to 80%, so 80 amps. And we were charging with 250 amps into the battery. And I was a bit scared actually to see that because I wasn't here, so I couldn't monitor any situations with heat building up somewhere in the breakers or connections. I mean, I've never charged that fast before. And interesting on this screenshot is also, have a look at the big shed here, the 3 kilowatt peak system. It actually produces 3.8 kilowatt at the moment. And the same with the carport system, 3.2 kilowatt peak producing 3.85 kilowatt. Well, the east and west roof were already limited by the solar charge controller. So when the solar charge controller reaches 4 kilowatt or 70 amps output current, it limits the overall output. Yeah, and basically 1 hour later, the battery was fully charged to 100%, and then the whole solar charge controllers throttled down. And I was a bit relieved that nothing happened, that my wife didn't ring and said, well, there's smoke, there's here, there's that. So the next day, I actually limited all the solar charge controllers to output only 60 amps maximum. Yeah, and some of you guys actually followed me along on the Victron VRM here from all over the world and already discovered that the solar system is now fully functional and pumping out the amps like crazy. And this was actually quite funny. That was almost like a live chat we had in the comment section when Robert said, oh, have a look now. The west roof is pumping out 4 kilowatt. You're charging with over 200 amps again. They are 11 o'clock in the morning and you're charging with over 12 kilowatt. Yeah, that was actually quite funny to have this almost live conversation with some of you. And I really tried to push the battery down last night a bit to have enough space in the battery as well as in the vehicle. So I could really show you live here what is actually going on when the sun is fully out and on top of the panels and all 4 roofs are cranking out the amps. Honestly, at the moment, I have too much power. It is too much. Yeah, you can see this here. The battery was full until I came home at about 4 o'clock, and then I plugged in the vehicle immediately. So the next day, and then a bit of night consumption here, and the battery was down in the morning to about 50% state of charge. And then the whole show started again, but this time it wasn't as extreme because the solar charge controllers were limited to 60 amps only, which gave us a maximum current of 240 amps only. And here again, at noontime, at about 12 o'clock, the battery was already full, and then the solar charge controllers went to standby float and only supplied power to our loads. And that day we managed to harvest 34 kilowatt hours. I used only 18 of it. And the vehicle is only at 29% at the moment, which is good, so I can crank up the charging speed a bit. So what I'm trying to do here is now slowing down the energy which is going into our battery, because if I leave it running without charging the car now, the battery will be full before noon, and I cannot show you how much power actually is coming in from these solar panels on the roof now. So I'm trying to take away as much power already from the solar system as possible. And let's go to 16. Okay, so we have almost 9 o'clock now. We are still charging with about 5 to 6 kilowatt at the moment from the solar. And I would say let's give it another 1-2 hours or so, and then we have another look how much power we actually get from the roof here before, I think before it gets cloudy again. Not sure what's going on with this weather. But usually from around noon, clouds come in and then solar production goes down. So we have to measure between 11 and 12 o'clock. I think this is the maximum we will get today. So let's see. It is 10 o'clock and we have almost 8 kilowatt incoming, including still some shading here on the west roof, east roof, and the big shed there. Only the carport is in full sun. There's the carport producing 2.5, 2.2 from the east roof. So the carport is again the leader, the array with the most power output. Yeah, why should I care about the shading? We are making 8 kilowatts, guys. 10 o'clock in the morning. Just give it another hour and you will see when the beast is unleashed. So the big shed is still half shaded and we are already making 1.6 kilowatts just from this roof there. This alone would be enough energy to run the whole show here at this point of time, of course, but that would be enough. Yeah, having a look here, carport system. Is this one on the tilt system, 2.8 kilowatts at the moment. The east roof is this on the other side there, 3.3, but it is restricted, and the west roof is restricted as well, limited to 40 amps. So I'll take off the limiter now and we will see what we can actually get. So let's go the east roof first. This was the limiter I put in on Tuesday when I was too scared to let it run without me being here and observing everything. Okay, battery, see maximum charge current 60 amps. So we set this one again to 70, what the controller can do. And we want to see, oh yeah, at 66 already. It is still a tiny bit foggy, cloudy, not 100% sunshine, but that's good enough. 65.6 amps. And we will do the same with the west roof now. West roof is restricted to 40 amps only. So let's go here in the battery and chuck this one to 70 amps. Let's see what we get. Of course there's this one cloud. This one cloud. It's always Murphy's cloud in front of the sun when I want to test something and show you something. Come on, west roof, don't let me down. 40 amps. Close to 70 amps now. So we're going back in the overview. And east roof 68, west roof 66, the carport 54, and the half shaded shed 30. Okay, let's go in the garage and turn off all the load. I want to see how much power goes in the battery. And I want to check the BMSes. So here we can see all three BMSes. On the left, the Overkill BMS in the top shelf. The middle is the JK BMS in the middle shelf. And the BMS on the right is the Haltech BMS, showing the battery status in the bottom shelf. I'm going to turn off all the load now, stop the car charging, turn off the pool pump, and let the maximum current go into the battery. And we want to observe what the BMSes actually do. So at the moment we are charging with around 25 amps per BMS. Okay, so turning off the vehicle as well. And now we are going back into our BMSes and have a look. So from the top, 70 amps, 65 amps, and about 60 amps, 55, 60 amps in the Haltech at the bottom as well. Let us quickly check what the generation does. 11 kilowatt we are pumping in, 1.6 from the big shed, 2.9 from the carport, and 3.5 from each east roof and west roof. 11.2 kilowatts. This is 196 amps going into the battery at the moment. Almost 200 amps. And the BMSes are fine. Look at this, 70 amps, 65 amps, and 55, 58, because the Haltech is always underreporting with the current. So now we are charging with 11.2 kilowatts from solar, 66 amps into the JK BMS, 71 in the Overkill on the top, and around 60, I would say, into the Haltech BMS at the bottom. So this is all good. Yeah, charging with 200 amps. Yeah, because there's this cloud. There's nothing around it. There's no clouds anywhere else. Just there. If I wouldn't have captured this all on camera, nobody would believe me that. And the battery is already at 85% now. That goes quick. It's charging with 10 kilowatt into the battery. These are all numbers I could not imagine before that. So in these currents, about 70 to 80 amps, this is around 0.2, 0.3 C for these batteries. But only because I have turned off all the load now, or everything is turned off completely. So I've now turned on the pool pump again in the vehicle charger, and we can see the current halves almost. Still producing 11.2 kilowatts, but only 6 kilowatts, 6.5 are going into the batteries now. 118 amps all in total in 3 banks. And 4 kilowatt are going into our load. So that's all working well. So at some stage we will get the full power from the big shed here as well, before the carport will get some shading then afterwards. But I mean, I made 29 kilowatt hours already, and it is 1140. It is a ridiculous amount of energy. Can't believe it. 29 kilowatt hours. Half a day. So all 4 solar charge controllers are still in bulk mode, but we are at 97-98% state of charge. Yep, 98% almost. And I'm going to turn off the load now again, and I want to have the full power of the solar now going into the battery, and we want to see what's happening when the batteries are getting full. So at the moment we have already 55 volts, so we are approaching the 55.2 very quickly now. Okay, so all load is turned off, and the solar charge controllers have immediately switched to absorption, because this was a huge voltage spike. The voltage has risen, and now we can see the current into the battery banks are tapering off already. So around 55 amps into the JK battery and the Overkill battery at the top, and only about 25-30 amps into the Haltech at the bottom. And now we are still charging with around 7 kilowatts into the batteries. And we can also see the deviation in our different battery banks is not too bad. 15 millivolt only in the Overkill battery, 23 millivolt in the JK, and 60 millivolt in the Haltech. Balancing has started in all 3 BMSes. So, and here's the thing. So even if you charge with a relatively high current into your battery banks, which are in parallel, and one of your BMSes would turn off, because one of your cells is peaking at 3.65 and the BMS does an emergency shutdown for this particular battery bank. The overall current from your solar panels would stay the same, so it would actually then split up in the two remaining battery banks, and we would see an increase in current for these two battery banks. But as we have just seen, the current is not too high. And I cannot see a cascading turn off of all the other remaining battery banks as well then afterwards. And this is because your battery banks are already pretty saturated with energy. So even you offer them more amps, they won't take it when you keep the voltage constant. And this is exactly what we are doing with the absorption phase. We are keeping the battery at 55.2 volts, 3.45 per cell. And then we are waiting until the current goes down and all the battery cells are fully saturated with energy. And then we are a bit over 99% state of charge already. Well, unfortunately, we can see again that the Haltech BMS is not capable of balancing this battery pack, and the deviation actually goes up. Even the whole battery takes only around 10 amps. The deviation goes up and up and up. While the JK BMS with its active balancing has no problem to keep the battery under control, and neither has the overkill solar at the top. There you can see very little balancing happening for this battery. So pretty good. So what I have planned for a future video, I want to swap the BMSs out from the overkill in the top shelf and the Haltech in the bottom shelf. Because I'm fully charging the battery every day now for the next couple of months, it would be good to see if this problem is actually related to the battery or the BMS. And here we can also see that the solar is actually throttling down to 3.3 kilowatt now. This is what still goes into the batteries to saturate them in the absorption phase. But all the load is turned off apart from some standby load. And now the solar system sits there on the roof and doesn't do anything anymore. So I'm going to turn the load back on now. I don't want to lose this energy, right? And now I'm pulling almost 5 kilowatt from the system again. But this energy solely comes from the solar panels. As you can see, 7.5 we are generating and only 1.9 goes into the battery bank at the moment. Okay guys, I think so far this video from today with the first full power coming from all of our roofs now with the new solar system. Very impressive performance. Even we had the massive load connected all morning long. The battery is still full at 12:30. And this was already 41 kilowatt hours now until 12:50. And it was at 70% state of charge this morning. I will do another test and see how much power we could actually get out of the solar system. But I need to fully deplete the battery for that and also have the car ready to take all the excess energy then. So I need to think how to prepare for that to have the maximum load connected to our system here, so we can avoid the MPPTs going into absorption or even float mode and the battery is full. We want to try to not waste any energy coming from the solar panel. Well, this is just what it is if you have an off-grid system. At some point you're not harvesting any more energy because all your storage is full and you don't have the demand at the moment. Yes, a bigger battery will help, but only once. Because once the bigger battery is fully charged, you are in the same situation again. So a bigger battery is not the solution. But we talk about this in all details in a future video to explain the pros and cons of going off-grid or staying connected to the grid. And until the next video guys, you stay charged, stay safe, and thanks so much for watching. See you then, bye bye. One more test. So someone was actually asking if these panels here on the carport, which are on a tilt frame, are running cooler than the ones mounted on the actual garage, because they are sitting flat on the roof and these have a bit more air cooling from the back, so to speak. But I thought I can capture this here on the camera, but I think it's very hard because we get the reflection from the sun, which is the hotspot. So let me try from here. Now there's nothing to see with the thermal camera, unfortunately. Let's get the thermometer and see if we can measure anything. So let's measure here on the phono panels, and we've got about 54 degrees, and the Hyundais have only 50 degrees, so they're actually cooler. It could be the surface as well, which is reflecting, so very hard to tell. 52. to 55. They're actually warmer than these ones for some reason. Maybe I need to measure from the underside. We've got here 57. And here we have 53. So these ones are actually running cooler than these ones, even they are tilted and have more space. Who would have thought?